When we have images on our website, it's always important to describe them using the alt attribute here. So in the case of this image, we have this sort of complex bar graph that we need to describe in a way that makes sense for people who can't see it. And the problem that we're running into is to describe all the data inside the bar graph using the alt attribute would be very complicated and wouldn't work really well. There's another attribute we can add to the image that allows us to provide a bunch of HTML to describe an image instead. So I have some HTML here. I'm just going to paste it in. So this is a description list that lists out each of the bars in the chart. So each planet, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and then it also lists out the number of moons. So this is the same information presented in the bar graph, but it's presented textually in a way that's available to everybody. Now, what we want to do is we want to create an association between this image and this information so that when a screen reader, as an example, encounters the image, it will read out the information, the text information instead. And the way we can do that is with an attribute called aria details. So the aria details attribute allows us to point to another element on the page. And instead of the screen reader or the accessibility tool using the alt attribute to describe this image, the element that aria details points to will be used instead. So the way it works is on our DL here, let's add an ID. Let's call it graph info like this. And then inside of aria details, we put the same ID, graph info. Now we've created a direct association between the image and the text. So when a screen reader encounters the image, it will instead use all the HTML inside here to describe the image instead of the alt attribute. So this is a way for us to allow more complex descriptions, extended descriptions on images. Ideally, though, we don't want this information to ever be hidden. It's nice to have this information always visible, and it should be visible. But in some cases, you may really want the information to be visible. It's not best practice, but if you do really need to hide the information, you need to hide the information in a way that's also accessible. So in my CSS here, I have this visually hidden class. And you can see that in some of the other videos that I've done. And what this does is it hides the text, hides the HTML in a way that still leaves the HTML accessible to screen readers and other tools. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the class of visually hidden on here like this. And then when we go to our browser and refresh, you can see the textual information is gone, and the image is still visible. And if a screen reader encountered this image, it would still have access to that text and it would read that out. So ideally, the extra description, the extra HTML description should be visible, but if you must hide it, make sure you hide it accessibly using something like the visually hidden class like this.